Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the December 30th late night evening edition of the Bobby Hesley Show. How's everybody doing tonight? How's everybody holding up amidst all the craziness? Had a very busy week this week. Haven't seen you guys since I think it was Saturday or Sunday. I was actually out of town this week. I'm finishing the year really strong, trying to make the best of what I can of the year 2020 with the little that many of us had to work with. So it's good to see everybody on tonight. Are you night owls up worrying? Are you late night worry warts up losing your minds over what's going to happen on January 6th? Are you guys worried whether or not Vice President Mike Pence is going to do the right thing? Because that's what I've been hearing a lot about, guys. For the last 2 weeks, I've been hearing a lot of our worn out, abused, burned out, worried, weary patriots that are just terrified that Mike Pence is going to betray Donald Trump in his hour of need on January 6th when this election is supposed to be certified. And let's be honest, guys. Do you feel that way? You can be honest. We can have a conversation. We're all family here on the Bobby Hesley Show. When something's on my mind, when I'm bothered about something, you guys know that I'm transparent about it. Sometimes a little bit too much so. I shock people with my transparency sometimes. I do. And so it's okay if you guys want to be transparent with me. But the fact is, I wanted to do this show tonight, and I'm probably going to do one final show tomorrow to close out 2020. I can't let tomorrow go by without doing a final show of the Bobby Hesley podcast. But guys, don't worry. I don't believe that Mike Pence is going to sell Donald Trump out. I don't believe that he's going to betray Donald Trump. I don't believe that he's going to bail on Donald Trump. And I'm going to give you some compelling reasons why. I want to put this fear to rest once and for all. I've even been hearing lots of, credible intellectuals express a little bit of concern. I won't call it worry, but I will call it concern. And in my opinion, I feel like it's unfounded. And that's a good point, Leslie. That's a good point. There's been so many scared to stand up because they've been threatened. And I agree, Look at these recent Supreme Court justices that we all thought were going to be in the tank for Trump. They were Trump's appointees. And it's not so much that they're in the tank for Donald Trump per se. We just thought that they'd be in the tank for the United States Constitution because that's their job. And I agree that Pence is an honest man. He's a good man, Farah CT. I agree with that. Guys, we have nothing to worry about, especially when you compare Mike Pence to his predecessors, to the vice presidents that have come before Mike Pence. I believe that Mike Pence is one of the greatest, dignified, virtuous men that we've ever had serve with distinction the office of the vice presidency. I want you guys to think back. Think back on all the vice presidents of your lifetimes. I've had, Bush 1 under Reagan for 8 years. I had Al Gore under Clinton for 8 years. I had Dick Cheney under Bush for 8 years. Joe Biden under Obama for 8 years. And Mike Pence under Trump for 4 years. And it's going to be under Trump for another 4 years. So a total 8 years. So I've had about 5 vice presidents in my lifetime. And I got to say, folks, I'm not going to speak for you guys because some of my viewers are older than me. Of all the vice presidents that I have been under in my lifetime, Mike Pence blows all of them away. By far blows them all away. All of them. Especially the Democrat ones. But even the Republican vice presidents don't hold a candle. Oh, I skipped Dan Quayle. See, that goes to show you right there. I forgot about when Bush 1 succeeded Reagan in 1988. He had Dan Quayle. Dan Quayle was such a forgettable vice president that I forgot to include him in the lineup. I went straight from Bush 1 to Al Gore. I forgot about old Danny Boy. But think about it, guys. Al Gore. If I don't want to go back too far, if you think of Al Gore, right? Al Gore is the supposed father of global warming. But have you guys noticed that they don't call it global warming anymore? You notice because the globe overall is not warming anymore. In fact, things are cooling down. So now they had to switch to climate change because it no longer fits the narrative of increasing temperatures throughout the world. So now they call it climate change. You see, euphemism is the language of Satan, G.K. Chesterton said. There's lots of different word games that these people like to use to suit their agendas. Al Gore claimed to be the father of the internet. Did you guys know that? He claims to take credit for inventing the internet. And by the way, Al Gore is the son of Albert Gore Sr., who was one of 14 Democrat senators who filibustered the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The father of Al Gore fought tooth and nail to prevent black people who look like me, from having the civil rights to vote, own property, all the civil rights that we now enjoy now. Al Gore Sr., the grandfather of the internet and the grandfather of global warming, fought really hard to keep black people from having rights in this country. And that's the man who raised Al Gore. Right? Al Gore ends up making millions and millions of dollars off the climate change scam. And believe it or not, he ends up selling his news network. You guys remember what Al Gore's news network was? Was it Current TV or something like that? You remember he built up this multiple $1 million news network, and you know who he ended up selling it to, guys? Al Gore ended up selling it to Al Jazeera, who made millions and millions of dollars off of oil profiteering. Mr. Global Warming, Mr. Climate Change, Mr. Inconvenient Truth, that got an Oscar for that documentary about climate change, ended up selling his climate change news network to Al Jazeera, who was funded by billions of dollars of oil money. And Al Gore was not loyal to the United States. He sold all kinds of secrets to China. He profited himself, just like the other Democrat vice presidents did. And you know what, guys? I'm going to have integrity, because the next vice president that was disloyal, that I believe enriched himself at the expense of America, particularly the expense of the U.S. military, was Dick Cheney, his successor. Dick Cheney was not a good vice president that we had for 8 years. Dick Cheney was a war profiteer. Vice President Dick Cheney was a huge proponent, not of the welfare state like his Democrat counterpart Al Gore and Joe Biden. No, Dick Cheney was a proponent of the warfare state. And he really screwed up Iraq. There's lots of things in the Middle East that he screwed up. And Dick Cheney was the Secretary of Defense for Bush 1 that got us into the Kuwait War, the Persian Gulf War back in 1991. So 2 different times Dick Cheney got the U.S. into squabbles with Iraq. He was not a good vice president either, in my opinion, looking back. And he was a Republican. I don't only go at Democrats. I go where truth and justice is, guys. And don't even get me started on his successor, Joe Biden. As far as being a vice president. As a matter of fact, why don't we take a little detour? Let's take a little comedy relief detour. And why don't we see who the successor of Dick Cheney was, the immediate predecessor of Vice President Pence. I'm spending time on the predecessors of Mike Pence because I need to create a contrast between all the crooked men who came before him so that you could see the clear contrast of who Vice President Mike Pence is. And to help you realize that you have nothing to worry about, that your fears are completely irrational, they are completely unfounded. And before I share this video, I need you guys to comment on this video, like this video, make sure that you share it. As a matter of fact, before I play the clip that I'm getting ready to play, I need everybody to hit the share button and share this video, because I'm sure a lot of you have friends who have the same fear that Mike Pence is going to sell out Donald Trump. And they need to know how unfounded and how irrational their fears are. This is just from 2020, guys. These clips that I'm going to show you of Joe Biden, most of them are just from 2020. They're from our friends at the Daily Wire. one of the fastest growing conservative news outlets that's headed up by Ben Shapiro. Look at this incredible montage that they put together of all the gaffes of Joe Biden. Check this out.
Why attack Sanders? Why? You're getting nervous, man. He apologized for saying that I was corrupt. He didn't say anything about whether or not I was telling the truth about Social Security. We've been doing everything we can do to keep Biden from being the nominee, and guess what? We tried it in Iraq. It's not working, so now we're going to try, in Iran. Excuse me. We tried in Ukraine.
The Me Too movement has forced a cultural reckoning around the issue of sexual violence and harassment against women in America.
We have to just change the culture, period, and keep punching at it and punching at it and punching at it.
Very poor choice of words.
How do you explain the performance in Iowa, and why should the voters believe that you can win the national election?
Number one, Iowa's a Democratic caucus. You ever been to a caucus? No, you haven't. You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but you're now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you. You're a damn liar, man. That's not true. No, let him go. Look, Pat, look, here's the deal. I'm not voting for you. Well, I knew you weren't, man. You think I thought you stand up and vote for me? You're too old to vote for me. The fact is, if you're going to take on the government, you need an F-15 with Hellfire missiles. There's no way an AK-47 is going to take care of you if you're going to take on. You're worried about the government coming down, knocking down your door. We never said you could own any weapon at all. You can't have a magazine that has more than 10 rounds in it. We choose unity over division. We choose science over fiction. We choose truth over facts. And to get hot, I got hairy legs that turn turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again.
Gross.
They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap.
Did you catch that, guys? Did you catch that connection he made between black kids and roaches? Look at this, guys. Look at my screen here. He's surrounded by all these poor black kids campaigning. And he says that all these black kids used to rub his legs in the pool to watch the hair stand up on his legs. And he learned about roaches. That's what black kids had to teach him. When he hung around poor black kids, of all things that they taught him about roaches. That shows you what he thinks of poor black kids.
And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
It's almost done, guys.
We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Wealthy kids, black kids, Asian kids.
He knows he didn't want to say black kids.
We've acted together. We have never been unable to overcome whatever the problem was. If you agree with me, go to Joe 30330 and help me in this fight. Thank you very much. Let him go.
The one, the only, Joe Biden. Now, why am I contrasting all of these vice presidents? Why am I stuck in the past? Why am I digging up all these past vice presidents when Mike Pence is the president? I mean, these guys haven't been in office for years, some for over a decade, some for 20 years, like in the case of Al Gore. I mean, think about it. Al Gore, I talked about him, made all that millions of money selling his news network, Current TV, to Al Jazeera, billion-dollar oil company. Cheney, a warfare state profiteer, screwed up Iraq multiple times. Joe Biden, you just saw that clip of him. He's a disgrace. Kamala Harris, supposedly the certified vice president. She's got a track record and a history of disgrace. I said all that to say, guys, that our current vice president, Mike Pence, is a man of virtue, and he's a man of loyalty. And one of the most distinguishing characteristics of Mike Pence's virtue is his loyalty to President Trump. The man is extremely loyal to Trump. Extremely loyal. This is why you guys have no business fearing that Mike Pence is going to betray Donald Trump. Because Mike Pence is loyal in all the areas where he needs to be loyal. For example, Jesus said that he who is faithful in small things shall be faithful and trustworthy with greater things. The most important person that Mike Pence has demonstrated his loyalty to is not Vice President Donald Trump, or not President Donald Trump, not even the American people. Who has Mike Pence showed his undying loyalty to? And this is why it should give us the confidence that he's going to be loyal to Donald Trump. You guys know where I'm going? His wife, Karen. Do you guys know one of the biggest critiques of Mike Pence? And this is a shame because this is a reflection of the secular culture that we now find ourselves in. But it's a shame that one of the biggest criticisms of Mike Pence, and one of the biggest things that he's actually notorious for, and this is not something that he should be notorious for, okay? The word notoriety is a negative term. That means you're famous for something that people find very displeasing and controversial, is what's called his open door policy. Did you guys know that Mike Pence will not be behind closed doors with a woman other than his wife? It doesn't matter who it is, which I think is extremely smart of him in this day and age of fake Me Too investigations, fake Me Too, rape allegations. As a matter of fact, the Washington Post actually wrote an article about this. It says a recent Washington Post profile of Second Lady Karen Pence, wife of Vice President Mike Pence, uncovered an interesting detail about their extremely close relationship. Mike Pence reportedly told The Hill in 2002 that he never eats alone with a woman other than his wife, and that he won't attend events featuring alcohol without her by his side. This tidbit caused a small uproar on Twitter, with some praising Pence for respecting his wife in marriage. Like in the case of Matt Walsh, he said, if you laugh at Pence for respecting his marriage, it's probably because you've never been in a healthy one. So think about that, guys. One of the biggest flaws that people find with Mike Pence is his loyalty to his wife. You ever hear the phrase loyal to a fault, faithful to a fault? Well, Mike Pence is faithful to a fault, guys. And not only is Mike Pence the most virtuous vice president that I've ever had in my lifetime, hands down, but he's also the most influential vice president, not only in my lifetime, but I would contend in the history of this country. And I know that I'm claiming that. I know that that's a heck of a thing to say. But the fact of the matter is this: Mike Pence has done more to influence the Senate than any other VP in history. Like I said in my previous video broadcast, the vice presidency is an extremely important position. It's not just some useless auxiliary Me Too backup position. The president of the United States Senate is the vice president. The most powerful man in the Senate is not Mitch McConnell. It's Mike Pence. It's not the Senate majority leader. It's not the Senate minority leader. It's the vice president. And here's a little quote. It says that Mike Pence, get this, guys, Mike Pence has cast 6 tie-breaking votes during his first year in office. Think about that. The first year that Mike Pence was in office in 2017, he cast 6 tie-breaking votes in the Senate. Do you guys realize that the Senate was so gridlocked that the only person that could move it forward was Mike Pence? The president of the Senate had to invoke his presidential authority, not his vice presidential authority, but his senatorial presidential authority. And 6 different times, just in his first year, he cast tie-breaking votes. Mike Pence cast 6 tie-breaking votes in his first year in office, the most for any vice president. He broke a tie with John Adams. Get this, John Adams, one of the founding fathers. He broke a tie with John Adams, William Wheeler, and Alben Barkley, who all cast only 4 tie-breaking votes within their first year. This was also the most tie-breaking votes in any single year since 1872, when there were 7 cast by Schuyler Colfax during the Grant administration. He tied Colfax's single-year record in 2018 when he cast 7 tie-breaking votes. Now get this, guys, it ends. Pence has cast the most tie-breaking votes, 13 total, of any vice president since Schuyler Colfax back in 1869 through 1873. Think about that, guys. Mike Pence has had Donald Trump's back 13 different times when he had to have the back of the president to break a tie-breaking vote in the Senate. So if Mike Pence came through for Donald Trump 13 different times, just within the first year or two of him being vice president, 6 times in 2017, 7 times in 2018, what makes you think he's not going to come through for Donald Trump on January 6th? Huh? We all have short memories. We all have short memories, folks. And as a matter of fact, I want to ask you guys a question. Who do we have to thank for getting rid of Obamacare? The fact that you're no longer forced to buy a health care plan under penalty of the IRS. Who do you have to thank for that? Who do you owe your gratitude towards for getting rid of the individual mandate of Obamacare, which Obamacare stands or falls on, guys? The linchpin, the heart of Obamacare, is the individual mandate. As a matter of fact, we could say without the individual mandate, there is no Obamacare. Do you guys need a quick history lesson about who you have to thank for getting rid of Obamacare? Mike Pence. That's who. Vice President Mike Pence, were it not for him, we would still be forced to buy crappy Obamacare because the Senate was gridlocked about repealing the individual mandate of Obamacare. There were 50 Republicans that voted to repeal it, and there were 50 Democrats that voted to uphold it. And if it were not for Mike Pence coming through for President Donald Trump, we would still be stuck with Obamacare. Check it out.
As a reminder to our guests, expressions of approval or disapproval are not permitted. On this vote, the yeas are 50 and the nays are 50. The Senate being equally divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative and the motion is agreed to. Clerk will report the bill.
Look at this, guys. Look at this. 51 votes. There were 50 yeas and 50 nays. Mike Pence brought it up to 51, and he got rid of Obamacare. Do you guys remember Betsy DeVos? Do you remember her? Do you remember Betsy DeVos, the Secretary of Education? This was the first tie-breaking vote of Mike Pence when he voted to break the tie in the Senate of Betsy DeVos. But this is why you guys cannot be afraid. This is why I don't want you guys to worry. Because in a rally last week, and this has been making the rounds, check out what Vice President Pence said.
You know, with your support, the President and I received more than 74 million votes across this country. 10 million more than 2016, the greatest share of minority votes in the last 60 years, and we added more than a dozen seats to the United States Congress. And I'm here because I stand with President Donald Trump. And I'm here because we stand with Senator David Perdue and Senator Kelly Loeffler. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep fighting for every legal vote in America. And we're going to keep fighting to hold the line in the United States Senate. We're going to win Georgia, and we're going to save America.
Did you guys catch that chant? The crowd was literally chanting, hold the line, hold the line. Now, I'm going to get off here, guys. I know it's late, but I wanted to show you that proof. I wanted to show you the fact that Mike Pence has been the most supportive, loyal, virtuous, trustworthy vice president in American history. 13 different times he invoked his role as president of the Senate to cast tie-breaking votes on behalf of Donald Trump. This is why you have nothing to worry about. And there's an article. It's very important that you guys go over to my YouTube channel and that you subscribe, because there's an article from the American Thinker that I linked in the description section of this video. And it's a detailed article. And it's literally titled, "It's for Mike Pence to judge whether a presidential election was held at all." And this article is the best, most definitive, most thorough, and exhaustive analysis that I've ever heard about how all the power is basically in the hands of Mike Pence. And it hinges on these three different things that the article says. It says an election is a process of counting votes for candidates. Only valid, lawful votes may be counted. A valid, lawful vote is, and it gives three descriptions of what a valid, lawful vote is. Number one, cast by an eligible, properly registered elector as prescribed by laws enacted by the state legislature. Now, we know that these 6 or 7 different swing states, they broke all kinds of their own state laws in appointing their electors. Number two, cast in a timely manner as prescribed by laws enacted by the state legislature. Finally, number three, cast in a proper form as prescribed by laws enacted by the state legislature. So these are three different things that Mike Pence is going to determine on January 6th. And it's really important that you guys head over to my YouTube channel and subscribe so that you can see this article. And I'm telling you, if you read this article, guys, it's going to put to rest all those fears you have about whether or not Mike Pence is going to come through for us. It really will. So, guys, please comment on this video. Please like it. Please subscribe to all my social media channels. Please share it. I got a couple of minutes I'll stay on if you guys want to ask anything. Please add some additional platforms, because Facebook's trying to, as much as I would love to blame Zuck had nothing to do with why I was cut out tonight. That was totally my fault. I forgot to unmute myself, and I was talking into oblivion. I was talking into a black hole where nobody could hear me. And once I get in the zone, I can't look at the comments while I'm in the zone. Otherwise, it'll distract me. So I wasn't able to see everybody telling me, hey, Bobby, no sound, no sound. So I had to come out and go back in. So I appreciate your guys' patience on that. I really do. You guys are the greatest. You guys are the best. So 2020 has been quite the whirlwind year, guys. I'm going to do a final video tomorrow of the year of 2020. And guys, I got to say, 2020 was the birth of this channel. My trip to Thailand, I was a stranded COVID refugee for 8 months. And I started doing these walk and talks. I was walking. I loved the streets of Thailand. It was one of the best times of my life. I would walk the streets. I'd be alone with God, and I would get all these thoughts that would come to me. And one day I just felt the Holy Spirit say, you know what? You can't keep all these thoughts inside. You have to share these thoughts. You have to share this with the world. There's people that need hope. There's people that need encouragement. There's people that need enlightenment. And freely you have received, now freely you must give. And that was the birth of the Bobby Hesley Show, guys. As a matter of fact, I'll kind of do a tribute, a year-end tribute. You guys want to see where it all started? Let me show you something here real quick. I'll show you guys where it all started. Let me go over to here. We're just going to reminisce for a little bit, guys. This was where it all started right here. Check it out. I'm a stranded COVID-19. My regular morning walk. As you can see, the streets of Thailand are very quiet and peaceful. And I'm a stranded COVID-19 refugee. I was supposed to be back a couple of months ago, but all the international flights have been canceled. So I just kind of been here indefinitely. Maybe I'll be back in a few months. But anyway, I wanted to make a video, nothing fancy. I'm filming this from my cell phone. I'm not in a studio. I don't have sound equipment. I'm covered in So that was my first video, guys. I was covered in sweat because I'm in the middle of my morning cardio workout. And you might even hear me a little bit winded, but that's okay. But I just had to share something. So you know what I'm going to do, guys? I'm going to throw this in the comments. If you guys want to see where it all started, you want to check out my first video. Feeling a little bit nostalgic at the end of the year. This was a video that I felt like I had to make, and it was regarding George Floyd, who at the time I thought was murdered. It was the 2-week anniversary of the death of George Floyd, and at the time we all thought he was murdered. But as the footage came out, the full body cam came out, you know, we know that was not the case. Officer Chauvin's knee did play a hand in that, but he'd been resisting arrest for 10 minutes. He had a lethal dose of fentanyl in his system. He had coke, methamphetamine. As a matter of fact, that's where I was at this week. I was taking care of some business in Minneapolis, and I actually went to George Floyd Square. And I'll probably do a whole video on what I saw there, what that place is today. It was definitely interesting. So anyway, guys, wow, thanks for that, Donna. Nice, clean, honest, refreshing. I watched you, 73 years old, and I saw wisdom. Yes, I saw, but I thought you were in Florida, so it resonated. Yeah, I did live in Florida for a while. So anyway, guys, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate all of your support this year. I really do. Your guys' continued patronage. We're in this thing together. You guys help me get through all this craziness as much as I'm helping you get through it. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Have faith in the vice president. I don't believe he's going to betray Donald Trump. He has come through for him 13 different times, more than any other vice president in history. He has been more loyal and a more active vice president in the Senate than any other vice president in history, and I don't think that's going to change come January 6th. So thanks again for coming on, everybody. I love you all, and I will catch you on the next show.